Joining us right now from somewhere around the world, it's Mike from around the world.
God bless you, Pastor Paul. How are you doing this evening?
Doing really good. Well, I'm a little under the weather this evening, but I'll be all right. I'll bounce back.
That seems to be going around a little bit.
Yep. Well, Mike, I don't know if you've had a chance to hear any of the show so far. What's going on? Oh, by the way, your website's down. You got an update on that?
I know it is. I know it is. I'll have to see to that right following this broadcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. So what we did tonight is we have a webinar coming up. It's going to be on September 27th, and the name of it is October Surprise. And we're asking some really, yourself included, and a lot of several others, to tell us in that webinar your best calculations, maybe information, inside information, discernment of what could be the October surprise. And I've started tonight. Heidi has already started by saying that she believes the surprise is already underway. That we've seen it with the assassination attempt with President Trump. We've seen it with the coup to get rid of Biden after propping him up to win the nomination. And now we're seeing what I call the delusion of joy all week long. Nobody knows what they're happy about, but this is it a spirit? What is the delusion of joy that I think we're experiencing and watching?
Well, Pastor Paul, these guys control the world, right? So anything in the world that people are usually exposed to, they control. It's important to them to know what the narrative of the people is versus what they want to do. Which is why, for example, you have a lot of critical thinkers out there who have, for many years, they tried to anticipate the financial markets for many years, but every time the numbers never add up, right?
No.
And if you look closely, every time somebody predicts something, well, the number values change because it's their system. Right? We live in their system, and these guys are planted all over the place. So they control media, they control everything we see, and they control most of the devices that we utilize. And for a long time, we thought it was some passive act, or we thought that people had real good, good intentions behind many things. But the truth is, many people forgot that there's a spirit behind all of it.
Right.
That's been coordinating over thousands of years. I mean, think of just Satan himself, right?
Okay.
Who understands the prophecies of the Father. He understands the hierarchy of how salvation works, of how praise works, of everything works. He started a long time ago, planting lies, deceits. And so you get these generations of people, right, who some people don't have proper education as far as a biblical history enough to know that he is behind all of it. These civilizations that popped up that were evil, well, we dig up those things today and we extract info from them. But they were generally dark kingdoms. These were dark kingdoms.
Right.
We dig them up, not knowing he was behind all of it. And we pride ourselves off what we can find. So Satan always utilizes pride, what we're proud of, our own accomplishments and everything else.
Right.
In fact, he'll utilize everything outside of praise. He'll utilize everything outside of praise to his advantage. And so as men dig this stuff up and recreate it, they have essentially caused to be reborn ancient kingdoms all smashed into one. And he's still behind the whole thing. Now, a lot of people, they're raised innocently. They don't know that. We didn't grow up like that.
No.
Most people don't grow up. They don't know the history of this world. They don't know an evil force is behind all this worldly stuff. Anything in the world, Satan is an orchestrator behind it, just methodically planting seeds. Well, then, of course, we get up to this time, 2024, and everywhere we look, it seems like people are enthusiastic behind corrupt causes. They can't see the corruption, right? They cannot see the corruption.
No.
For example, these conventions and some of the policies that are in our country and Germany and other countries, they cannot see. They can't see the outcome or the corruption of it. Now, personally, I believe, first of all, I believe Heidi's right. We have been seeing the development of it for a long time now.
Okay.
Satan is methodical. This guy's been around for thousands of years.
Amen.
Right. So he's very methodical in what he does, and he never stops. And in Thessalonians, one of my favorite readings is chapter 2, Thessalonians chapter 2.
Yes.
Because it gives us insight into what happened to people. Because right now you ask yourself, what happened to people? Why do people have an inability to see or to discern what's actually happening? Why is it always too late for them? Why? And it's right there in Thessalonians.
Yeah, let's read it, Mike. Let me just read it real quick for you. It says, "Oh, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that you be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, and so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." Now, and we'll read on down here, it talks about strong delusion. Here's what it says. It says, verse 8, "And then shall the wicked be revealed, when the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, and that all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness."
And there it is. There it is, Pastor Paul, in verse 9, verse 8 and 9, right?
Right.
This guy, first of all, he's not revealed yet, but his works are. The world can't see it. In verse 8 it says, "And then shall that wicked be revealed." Now that's to the world. We already know Satan is at work. But the most devastating thing, which gives answer to why people can't see, is it says starting at verse 10, "With all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish." Yep. Not to those who are saved, in them that perish. And then it says, "Because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved." So you see, you have a bunch of people, they may be nice. They may be nice people. That does not mean they're saved, right? Doesn't mean their life is dedicated to Christ Jesus. No. And when God sends them this, he said, "And for this cause," because they did not love the truth. They just simply did not love the truth, right? God will send them a strong delusion that they will believe a lie, that they should be. They can't escape that. They can't escape what's coming. So what we see the formation of is a revealing, right? A revealing in many things that go with it. But the people, whether they're good-natured, they could be perfect citizens, upright citizens according to the world, but if they have no relationship with Christ, they cannot see what they're serving. They cannot see that some of those policies they think are good and wholesome are destructive, right? They can't see that.
Yeah.
They really can't see that. And when God gives people over to a strong delusion, I believe that goes with a reprobate mind. I believe it goes to, you have a lot of folks who don't love the truth. In other words, instead of going back to the Lord, right, they want all the credit for themselves, or they want to use other methods. They want to destroy people along the way. You better believe that every single divisive issue in this election is purposed by the world. The border, that's not a mistake.
No.
Why have we not sealed our borders since we've been a country? Can anybody answer that?
No. I mean, this
Right?
problem has been going on a
There you go.
long time.
So you have an ancient spirit behind all of it that will not allow anybody to stop it from being from all this darkness to enter in, right? So God's people, we see all this, and we ask her. It's very sad to see it is, but we ask ourselves, well, at what point does this stop? And as you can see, for many years, it's been escalating,
Yes.
because I believe we're getting close to a point of revealing this figure. Right.
Okay.
And if we get close to that point of revealing, it's not going to slow down. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. But the people that are serving the world, they cannot see it. It's going to be their paradise, which is probably why in the Bible they said, peace and safety.
Right.
Then, of course, that destruction comes upon them. So we see the development, these scriptures that people have read for so many years. We're actually seeing the formation of these prophecies coming to pass right in our lifetime. So, see, I don't believe most people. They say, well, how do you know you're in the last times? Because Jesus said so. He said, these are the last times. Jesus sat there and said that these are the last times. And in these last times, he told us what would happen. He told us what would take place. And then us, those of us alive today, the last moments is when he brought everybody back to Israel. Well, that began in 1948.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
That concludes this very day. And so we see it unfolding. But the problem is, if people don't love the truth, right? They can't see it.
They'll believe
they can't
a lie.
Embrace it. That's right.
Yep.
And the purpose and what's so bad is they're not going to escape it, because the Lord said that he gave that to Paul, that they all might be damned, who loved not the truth, here it is, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Now, look at the policies that have been passed over the years, right?
Okay.
They're not wholesome, because these people have pleasure in such things. That's why they're a solution to certain people. They're no solution. These are destructive things. These policies are extremely destructive. The immigrants, right? A lot of people have a problem with the wall because the world defends. They say, well, no, we just can't. Let me give you an example. Somebody said, we need better security at our borders so we can have accountability of everybody in the nation for security's sake, given these times. And then another person, I can't name names, responded saying, here's what they said. That's all this gentleman said. We need better security in this nation, right? So that we can have accountability of our own people. And this other person rose up and said, well, we just can't separate children from their parents. Nobody said that.
No
one said that. And so they can't even hear the dialogue. It's almost like if you've ever been in an argument with a person and you say something that you're trying to help a person, but they're fighting you, right? And you say something, but then they heard something totally different than what you said.
Yeah.
And you wonder to yourself, what are they hearing? I didn't say, what are they hearing? And they continue to do it. So this darkness has their ear. Yeah. It's growing. And because they control the architect of the system, right? Yep. When wise people have a conclusion about what direction the system is going to take, they know what these people are saying, and they can easily begin to change their own numbers, right? They can change their own numbers in a heartbeat, but they do it all to recruit people. Recruitment is important to these people, and if people really knew the darkness involved, boy.
It's scary to know.
They would really understand. There is an actual recruitment process that takes place through entertainment, through politics, through everything you can possibly think of in the world. It's important to them that they recruit daily people for that cause, and they do it.
Is the ancient kingdoms of darkness, these that you talked about, which are brutal? They were brutal. They sacrificed. They murdered. Yep. That spirit just didn't disappear off the face of the earth.
No, it's the same.
It's the same spirit we're watching, isn't it?
Pastor Paul, they like for Moloch, they burned and killed children, correct?
Right.
They sacrificed children. Now, back in the day, they did that in numerous different methods. because each culture had a different method of doing that, but the child died.
Yes.
In our time,
Sacrifice.
you have a divisive subject called abortion.
Yes.
And right, but now a part of it people can see, but a part they can't see. It's the confusion in the subject that this darkness takes full advantage of. So the sacrifices never stopped. They never stopped.
No.
Right? The genocide never stopped. Nothing ever stopped. It continued, and it continues to this very day. It's just under a different name. It's made more civil than back in the day. Right? So brutality it still has the same result, death. It's just a different method, right?
Yeah.
And it's important to them that they recruit honest people. Here's the tragedy of having no relationship with Christ. A good person, they get a job in politics. They think they're going to do good for their parents, for their family, for their neighbors, and everything else. What they don't realize and what they cannot discern is that when they get into politics, they're going to be recruited by a very ancient system that will keep them blind to the absolutes of that system. So you get this honest person in the front that believes in their cause. But in the background, this person who is honest is presenting things to the people. People believe it because people have a level of discernment. But the person does not know that what he's doing is quite destructive. He can't see it, right? And it all goes back to Thessalonians again, with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. So they cannot see the deceit. They cannot see the vileness. They can't see any of that.
You know, to the deceptive tools that we know the devil uses now, has many at his fingertips, and will be able to use those going forward. As Christians, you can't. The one way you can know if something's true or not is if you know the truth. If you have the gospel, if you have Christ,
That's right.
You have the word, and you have a baseline. So we see it not happen. Let me ask you another question, Mike, because while this is going on, they found 6 bodies of hostages. These 6 was believed to be alive. Okay, they knew there was 39 dead and that the rest were supposedly alive, but they found 6 in Israel, in Gaza. They'd all been shot and executed, and then thrown, all 6 bodies behind a wall. So when you keep hearing, we have to stop the war now, ceasefire now. Not one person this week has said, I stand with Israel. Not one.
No.
I've been watching.
No, they haven't.
Okay.
No,
so
they haven't.
how do you get a ceasefire if maybe all the hostages are dead? Do we know, Mike, if they're dead or alive? Are you still there?
They have a good idea. They have a good idea. Which is why, the release of this talk about the hostages is so stagnant.
Yeah, because
right?
There's nothing
It's
there.
stagnant. It's being put off. It's being, they know, they can see everything. You can see everything. They know. Believe me, they know. They already know. But they utilize those things for this public theater. Right, it's quite the state is detestable. Is what it is. It's public theater, and you have people who they're not privy to that information, or individuals who may know of that information, and they're still hoping. But these people know. There's no way they don't know. The average person can deduce that. Yes, we have the technology to see right through walls.
Right.
At any given moment, you can buy products over Amazon that can equip a person to look through an entire neighborhood, right? One person can look through everybody's house. So yeah, we have that ability.
So we know. And that's why, even though we're hearing the White House putting pressure on Netanyahu just he's got his foot on the gas, and he's going to finish off Hamas no matter what.
Yeah, and I hope that, I'll tell you something. Why is it that when these conventions are taking place, and then all of a sudden the Ukraine gains ground in Russia, right? Why all of a sudden now they have some peace talks going on right now? They have a dialogue now, right? Why all of a sudden? And you have to really look at the timing. You have to look at both conventions, and you'll start to see which one is establishment and which one is not in truth. right?
Yep.
Didn't the Lord warn us, though? He said, men will call evil good and good evil.
Yes, he did.
He told us. But again, the world has no ability to discern the force behind what they're attempting to establish. Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, you know that guy. He's under daily scrutiny,
Yes.
daily threat. He's under high amounts of pressure. And it's the entirety of the Middle East has a contract out on him. If they can get him, they will. Which is why even his flights have been abnormal. Abnormal flight.
Let me ask you about that. When you talk
forth.
about this flights for 1 second, American Airlines has canceled all flights in and out of Israel until I believe April or May of 25, and a couple other airlines. Delta has canceled all flights in and out of Israel till the end of October. So, is a war with Hezbollah and Iran about? Is the front changed? Is the war front changing now from Gaza to southern Lebanon, and airlines are being alerted? Everybody's being told, get out of the way. This thing's about ready to happen.
Yeah, it's expanded big time. It's expanded big time. Even the move in the Ukraine is to draw Russia into a specific mindset, right? To a specific place. Putin is not falling for it, though. Right. Truth be told about the Ukraine, they have Ukrainian defections every single day. Defections. That means a lot of soldiers are leaving the Ukrainian army. You don't hear that, do you?
Yeah, no, you do not hear
They
that.
are leaving on a daily basis. They're getting out of there. They're saying it's all messed up with Ukraine. It is just not what's being presented.
It's a big
And
mess.
that's something that is something you don't hear. But all of this goes with this war in Israel. Remember, all of this started with Hamas and Israel. And then everybody said, well, this is the moment. So, you know, they're about to do something with Israel, right?
Absolutely.
The USA has sent all its support assets over there in the Middle East.
They're still there.
We finally have one of the most powerful aircraft platforms staying on station in the Middle East, ready for action. This thing is
a war
unbelievable.
machine. It's a war machine in its own self, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and then the fleet itself, they carry lasers, right? They're carrying these high pulse lasers. So this is the first time they've deployed all these vehicles with lasers mounted to them. We're right in the thick of it. I've always known, by the way, when they mounted lasers to U.S. equipment, that would be World War III. So
wow,
we are certainly in that time. China is the U.S. Army, the admirals, generals, technical advisors, a lot of the folks who work in Boeing and these other, Lockheed and all these, they're nervous about China. Nervous, very nervous. Number one, China is, I know people hate to hear this, but China is not behind us as far as the military, right? They're not behind us.
No, they're not behind us.
People can throw propaganda around all day, but they're not behind us.
No.
We're having real issues with China. And it's put it this way, they have, for example, if they sent a simple drone swarm to a ship, that's the end of that ship, unless they have some MLRS type laser system that can, shoot down 4,000 pods.
Wow.
With a 10-pod strike back to back, you can't do that. They've seen these drones. Some of these drones are hypersonic. Since when does anybody have a hypersonic
Nobody,
drone?
I've heard, no. Yeah, I've not heard
You've
of
never
that.
heard of that,
no,
have you? Right?
No.
I mean, I know we have our AIM class and we have certain things, but China leads the world in that drone technology. They lead the world in drone technology, which is autonomous flight and acquisition, all these different things. They lead the world. And so they are packed with these drone swarms that have incredible capabilities, and just to make it simple, they simply overwhelm the target. There's no way to intercept all of that. So that's what we're facing. Right. And they have already deployed most of that. Now Iran has those. They have those drone swarm launchers. They have them.
Okay.
Right. 2 months ago, I believe the first dozen were noticed. 2 months ago.
Wow.
And so Russia, that's precisely when Russia had, it was high conversations back and forth between Russia. Russia has them too. They have their own. So China and Russia lead the world in hypersonics.
Yeah, I knew Russia had a
They lead the world
hypersonic
in
missile
hypersonics.
I forgot what they call that missile, but the hypersonic missile that Putin's been bragging about it because nobody can shoot it down, he said. And now you're saying hypersonic drones. That's another whole level, especially if they're smart drones. If those drones have the ability to hit precisely where they want to, then that's incredible. You got to have a laser. You're going to have to come up with a laser that can spread and wipe out numbers of them at once.
Yes, a 600. They have to have a 600 kilowatt laser to be on any hypersonic missile, right? When something is flying at Mach 10, Mach 5 to Mach 10, it has to withstand 1800 degree temperatures at its leading edge, right?
Yeah, right.
So you have to have a material that can withstand that much temperature. So in order to shoot one of those down, you have to go well beyond that temperature. So you're looking at something that would have to raise that temperature up to about 3,000 degrees. At the speed of light to knock these things out of the air. 300 kilowatt laser is not going to work. They don't work. They've already tried it. They failed. It does not work. And so, now it's not to say we don't have those, right?
That's right.
I'm just saying that we can be overwhelmed. So it's not going to be this wipeout that everybody thinks. You're looking at a mass casualty event either way.
World War III.
We're going headlong into it.
Yes, we are. So Psalms 90, Ezekiel 38, the Middle East war, it's all going to kind of, unfortunately, it looks like it's all going to come together as one bigger war. People are drawing sides. They're making decisions, who they're going to be, and it's a tough time. President Trump, there was another, a man was trying to assassinate President Trump while he was on the border. A guy, he apparently had a long gun and would have had the ability to shoot the president from on top of one of those ridges. Trump was it was on the border, but of course they got him. Your thoughts on that, Mike? I mean, is there just one of these every day now? We're just not hearing about it, or what's going on?
Yeah, they're not going to stop. This will continue. They will continue. And as far as these elections, they're trying to change the dynamic. They're trying to take the air out of the other side right now, right? If they can do that, they'll just stave off some of what would have happened during this election. But I have a belief, though, nobody out there is going to accept the outcome of this election.
I agree with you.
No, nobody will.
We're not going to get a winner. So that's dangerous.
No, they're not going to. Now, I guarantee you they're going to declare a winner.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not going to accept what's going to happen.
Either way.
They've already made up their minds.
Either way. Either way.
Yeah, they're not going to accept it. So we're in for it. It just so happens that that's at a very strange time anyway. But we just can't. We're looking at maximum weather events happening during that time too.
Speaking of that, Hawaii right now, there's 1, 2, 3, and a fourth one just formed. They're all in a row headed straight for Hawaii.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Okay. One of them is a category 3. The other two are almost tropical storms, and a fourth one just formed. They're all on the same path. I never seen anything like that. So you're saying some of these storms are being manipulated, I take it.
Well, we still have a change in the our northern pole and equator's influence, right? The equator is still going to move. It's going to move.
Pole shift.
That's what we're looking at. And so even right now, if you start to look at the storm tracks, a trend of the storm tracks, what you're starting to see is a shift. It's almost like it's off about 5 degrees from what it normally is. That will continue, right? So the equator or the Earth itself is going to reposition itself. There's no way it's going to maintain its position. We have too high of an external influence that will take place, and that will probably happen in almost abruptly after this quiet time passes. There's a field force once we enter into it, it's going to be like calm waters for a small season. And then once we hit that inner layer, you know, we could potentially be thrown out of orbit just a little bit. So if the orbit of the Earth changes, well, let's put it this way. If Mercury, if its orbit changes and it comes out towards us, we're going to be in trouble. There's something I never shared with anybody, but I happen to believe that we're going to get brushed by one of our own planets.
What planet? I mean, are we talking the moon? I mean, Mars? Mercury.
Yeah. I happen to believe that we're going to get brushed by one of our own planets.
What's causing
everything
that?
Well, we have enormous disturbances that we're heading into. That's heading our way. People they can call it whatever they want. We're going to have these disturbances. First, there's going to be, for example, not one tree is going to be left standing up, right? Not one tree. That will be because of water, because of ice, because of winds, very high winds, steady winds. Can you imagine having a 60-mile-an-hour winds on the surface of the Earth, sustained for maybe a year? Can you imagine that?
It caused a ton of damage.
Of course, storms would come in, and those wind speeds would increase. This is what we're looking at. But look at the ocean. If we had sustained high winds, what's going to happen to the oceans?
Well,
right? We're in trouble.
We're going to have huge tides. We're going to have waves and unbelievable coastal flooding.
Continuous. And unfortunately, this is a time we're heading into now. Historically, have they seen this historically? You better believe they have. They just don't talk about the things that actually affect people. They would rather have people look for a 1 in 3,000 year earthquake than to deal with some of these events that are going to affect all of us.
I see.
I mean, every single last one of us.
Right.
So we have the high winds coming. We have the the water coming. We have the ability of clouds to hold twice as much moisture as they hold right now. You're talking about hundreds of tons of water right over your heads. You know, that ability to drop so much water inland is devastating. And it will not leave, lots of foliage. Well, that's going to bring disease and a whole host of things all by itself. So this domino effect, you could say, is going to start happening, right? We're in the beginning stages of it right now. It's just that the noise of what's happening in the world with people is so loud. Very few people are paying attention to some of these trends of weather phenomenon changes that are not supposed to be. In the Middle East, there's never been a time in the Middle East when you walk outside, you just drop dead because of the heat. That actually happened last week, right? It happened the week before.
Wow.
The temperature's being so hot that people just walk outside and they drop dead from the heat. Yeah. And, here it's going to be no different.
Oh, the sun is way hotter this year. The sun is way hotter. And what I mean, the temperature could maybe be where it normally is, 90, 95, or wherever you're at. But the sun itself, it seems like within 10 minutes, you begin to feel your skin almost boiling. I mean, you can feel it. This is different, Mike. And you talked about that.
Yes, that's at in 2000. I forgot when it was, 2020 or something like that. We were talking about that prickly feeling.
Yes.
In the skin of a person.
Yes.
Because I was begging people, put sunscreen all over the place. Who cares how you look? Put it on. But when they go out into the sun, they're getting too much UV, too much radiation. Right?
Yes.
They're lying about. Past Paul, they're lying about so much on the internet. It's just incredible. And if people understand Java, DeFi, C++, and all these things, they can see the formula changes as to how they process this data. You can see what they've done. They're scrubbing the data. They're rounding things out that shouldn't be rounded out. And so what it does is it calms the numbers. Right. So instead of telling people they're being exposed to higher doses of UV, they simply just, adjust the formula. And so any reading from any sensor dealing with this internet is going to kick out some smoothed out numbers, is what they're doing. They're scrubbing the data. So it's very difficult to get the truth from that. Even Amazon, right? At Amazon, a lot of people like these radiation detectors at Amazon. Well, some folks went and took those apart to do some real calibrations in the lab calibrations.
Yeah.
And they found out that they're not calibrated like they should be calibrated.
They're reading
right?
a false
So
reading.
now they're going to be digitized, which means they're going to be essentially calibrated by some
Again.
central computer.
Yeah.
So that means no individual calibration, right? They've even discontinued the detection chip and the multiplexer. They've discontinued that, and they want to go. Everything is going to be gone over or go over to this communications type telemetry for aircraft, for different sensors, so that no one will understand how these things are calibrated, or they won't be able to calibrate it themselves. Essentially, that means you go stand right in the middle of Fukushima, when it goes off, and they can calibrate it to where you think nothing is happening.
Yeah.
So you just fall over dead in a few days, and you say, oh, everything's okay. It's a natural death.
Right.
So what if he looks lumpy and his skin fell off? But this is what they're doing. So that, clever, because they know people are smart and educated. So instead of, doing too much, they just change the way things are calibrated.
Yeah.
They did it to aircraft already, right? Aircraft are calibrated differently now. Helicopters are calibrated differently now. So that's because of the atmospheric pressure changes.
Because they don't want the people to know what the real atmospheric pressure. And they've also recalibrated the earthquake, the Richter scale. That's not the same either. I mean, they're messing with the whole thing.
They're quite clever.
Yeah,
they're very clever.
Mike, let me ask you a question. Remember when you brought up spam, and you said, there's a day coming, your favorite items won't be on the shelf, and you're going to see more.
It's going
to be gone, and that has happened. A lot of them have never come back. They're gone. I today was in a store, and there was, Heidi said, look, take a picture. So I did. There was this entire end cap of spam. And it was hot and spicy spam, jalapeno spam, this kind of spam, that kind of spam, all different flavors of spam. Huge. I mean, this was a huge display. And I'm thinking, so this is going to become the food of choice, or maybe the food of necessity. What do you think, Mike? Is it starting?
Sure, that and ramen noodles.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of companies who have gone out of business, Pastor Paul. You have inventory. Some items will not come back because they discontinued manufacturing of that product. During COVID-19 and following COVID-19, we had an animal die-off that was just blew the records out of the water, right? For example, the birds are still dying in large numbers. Most species of birds have been dying in large numbers, right?
Yeah, it's been going on quite a while.
Species of fish have been dying, right? They had 4.5 feet of fish found on the near a pier. 4.5 feet of fish that
dead
seemingly
fish?
were cooked dead fish, and they were alive. So then you have whales doing the same thing, right? And then you have dolphins are beaching themselves all over the place. Right? In California, when the sea lions start doing this, they kick any type of reporter out. They start jamming equipment, and they're doing whatever they do. They're making it very difficult for people to cover these stories.
I see.
Yeah. I mean, very difficult, and that's where we are now. So we have, and you know what? That's going to get worse. I believe the animal die-offs are going to get so bad that all of us will smell it sooner or later. I don't believe there's going to be an animal left on the face of the earth, a species that's not touched by the die-offs.
I agree.
So I hope that people get ready. We have I know they're talking about different.
What's that?
Yeah.
Sea lions?
Sea lions are beaching themselves.
Yeah, sea lions are beaching themselves. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Well, I started covering those, Mike, back in 2011 when 5,000 birds fell out of the sky in Beebe, Arkansas, and then millions of fish here and there, and then cattle falling over dead and all of this. And that was in 2011. And at that time, the media covered the stories. They ran articles, and they put me on interviews and television, different things, because I was showing them scripture that said this was going to happen in Hosea chapter 4. But then all of a sudden, about 2 years later, there was a stop. No more coverage. It didn't matter. I don't care how many birds died or whatever. It was never covered again. It was just basically so hard to find. So you're saying that it's happening even in bigger numbers, but the media is not allowed to cover it.
Yes,
or maybe
that's right.
real local, maybe real local, but that's about it. It's not going to get
That's
out
right.
past there.
That's right. The rule of thumb is that if media does not cover it,
About the
right,
oarfish.
What's that,
the
Heidi?
study's
Can you
not
talk
there.
about the oarfish?
Oh yeah, the oarfish. How do you want to bring that up? You said this last Thursday that these creatures from the bottom of the ocean were going to start coming up, and one did. A 12-foot oarfish washed up in San Diego,
And that's the same place to see.
and that's the same. It's the same beach, La Jolla Beach. It's a beautiful beach. It's La Jolla Beach in San Diego. I've been there many times, and that's where the sea lions come. Well, the sea lions are now washing up dead, and the big oarfish came up dead.
Not dead. They're
Well, they're feeding, yeah. So the oarfish came up dead, about 12 foot, and it's only the 20th time that this huge creature has ever washed up on the beaches of California since 1901. So it's rare. So you called this last Thursday, and it happened on Monday. Is it because you have some information about the volcanic activity going on in the ocean, and there's going to be more and more and more of this?
Yes, a lot of activity underneath the ocean. The sharks have changed their migration paths. Orcas have changed some of their normal paths that they utilize. They've changed that. Blue whales, same thing. Well, most whale species have altered their yearly path, and so there's a notable disturbance underneath the waters. There are quarantine areas underneath the waters in the oceans. These are for submarines. There are areas that nobody can go to now, right? They are off limits, and that's enforced now. And again, pilots continue to, see the ocean lit up. They continue to see that.
Yeah.
Now, there's a listen. So let me say this. This whole world has a fascination with the UFO topic. They do.
Yes.
But I wish it was not so magical, so to speak. What I mean by that is I wish it was common knowledge for people to understand the story of the fallen angels, number one.
Yes.
And some of the real encounters that took place before there ever was a U.S. government, for example, the war in the sky in Europe. They documented this 3 or 4 times. They saw large cylinders, and these cylinders were either bright or black, right? So they either absorbed light or put off light. They were fighting each other. It only lasted for a day, went away. And then about 100 years later, same thing happened, right? In California, not too, a couple of months ago, there were, I believe it was like 90 or so lights spotted at water top level. But then when they ascended, when they went up, they were quite large, only to go back down. Also, people should take note that when UFOs leave, they go over the oceans and into the oceans.
Yeah, they do.
So what I'm saying is that most of these UFO craft, right, they're going into the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Into the oceans. Off the coast of Florida, there's people will find out what that is. Off the coast of California, people will find out what that is. There's some horror stories out there as well as Florida and other places. And it's because there are 2 types of people on this earth, right?
Okay.
There's a whole nother type person on this earth that we will eventually
What? Wait a minute.
be involved with.
Okay, now, and that's not. If we go to the Old Testament, Genesis 6, we know that the fallen angels, and we know that there was the hybrids, the Nephilim. They were not the same as the rest of the humans that were on the earth. Are you
Right.
saying that there's another group of beings on this planet right now that are not human?
Yes.
And where do they live? Are they the others?
They're in the oceans. No, they're in the oceans. The people from the oceans, they're in the oceans. Now that sounds ludicrous right now, right?
Right.
And watch, I'm telling you this right now. This story is going to come out, but more than a story, introductions, and then the commingling. You watch and see, and it's going to become normal to everybody.
Are they reptilians? Are they fishermen?
No. These are people. As far as their humanity, I wouldn't say. Let's say they're split off a long time ago. right?
Okay.
So their exact nature, that's going to be unknown. That's going to be unknown.
Do
But
they have
it
our
sounds,
DNA, or do they have a different DNA?
they don't even tell people what type DNA they have. So
Okay.
like a triple helix.
So,
Or for example, people have heard about a triple helix, right?
right. Yes.
Would you be surprised to know that that's common in human beings?
Okay.
All right. So
Right.
so there's even human beings. I'll give an example. Here's what I'm saying without saying anything, that every single person on earth has to deal with certain aspects of their own flesh. And only through Christ do they overcome it. In other words, there's something in a person's flesh that is extraordinary. Let's put it that way. And a person through life, they have to deal with certain aspects of themselves. Right. Sometimes groups of people share that, but for the most part, each individual has to deal with a certain aspect of their own flesh and truly overcome it. And this is a lifelong type thing.
Now, are we interacting with these people or these entities? I mean, are we having dialogue? Are our leaders talking to their leaders? Is our Navy?
Not the leaders, but you have other groups of people that are not leaders at all, right? That govern such things. So do they interact? Yes. Will anybody ever see them interact? No. It's a mandate that people go there, right? But one day all of them are coming here, to be back and forth. That sounds nuts right now.
Right,
but it
right.
won't sound this way in a very short time. And it's going to be normal to everybody and then they'll spin the story about the history. But if people could just remember that we were given the story of the fallen angels, we were given the story of their this genealogy of things that they left here on this earth.
Yes.
Some of which were beautiful, some of which were common. Many of them were kings, leaders. Many of them were leaders. And I just admit right now, but many of those leaders are here to this very day.
Well,
many of the Nephilim leaders are here to this very day.
Well, yeah, is it, what's his name, Heidi? The guy in Gilgamesh?
Gilgamesh?
Yeah, Gilgamesh, yeah.
But don't look for the size, right? If people could throw away the size as a difference, right? In this day and age, think of it as intellect, right? Because they either had size, some weird physical characteristic, but some of them had intellect. And some of the Nephilim were very short. Some of the little people, right?
The little ant people.
They're very short.
Yeah, the little people, yeah.
But intellect is one of the biggest things, right?
Okay.
It is. When a person has intellect that is extremely high, you might want to just listen to what they say. They'll tell you who they are. They'll let you know.
Wow. So there's
because they cannot hold back their own ambition. They do not care to hold back their ambitions, and in their ambition is their identity.
So they're among us.
Sure they are.
Yeah. Okay. And and from a biblical standpoint, we should expect this. When we had King Og, he was 18 foot. Well, he had a bed that was 18 foot long and 6 foot wide. So we know he was a massive giant. But there were several kings.
Question.
Yes, Heidi's got a question.
Is one buried under Orlando?
Heidi wants to know, is one of these entities buried under Orlando, Florida?
Orlando, Florida?
Yes.
I can't answer that.
He can't.
But one is in South America.
One's in South America, Heidi.
And it's not dead.
It's not dead, and he cannot answer Orlando.
No. Well, because somebody in recent history told the world before they died, right? The whole world knew this person. They told the world some things. Nobody listened to the fella because they were from South America.
Okay.
Nobody listened to the fella.
Okay.
They cried. Can you imagine a tough guy crying and telling everybody, I want to be known as a human being when I die. I don't want to be known as.
Wow.
But you'll hear that story a lot. If you start digging, you'll find that quite a few people have had the same story throughout leaders. Now, whether people call them demonic entities, whatever they are, in full manifestation, whatever they are, right? They have a lot of dealings with the world. They have a lot of dealings. They do. And the people in leadership still pray to them. They still have ceremonies for them in the White House often, right? As a truth.
I know there's been a lot of activity that goes on in the White House over the years. It was definitely pagan or deeper and dark arts. There's been a lot of wickedness went on there. It's because it's a seat of power. And anywhere there's a seat of power, Lucifer wants to control that seat of power. Am I correct on that? Rome?
Yeah, in this world,
Buckingham
I
Palace?
don't believe in this world you can have power like that unless you somehow are serving Lucifer in some capacity. Plenty have tried to have power beyond a specific point, but everybody has to meet that they call the man, if they want to continue to have those millions of dollars. Even the rich people come out and they'll tell you that's his money. You gotta be in league to keep that, or you're gonna vanish. Because in truth, it's not hard to get rid of anybody, Pastor Paul.
No,
There's not one person on this earth that can, they have movies, and people truly believe that somehow somebody can escape these powers that want to get rid of them. No, they cannot. If they want to get rid of a person, they're not going to make a mistake. They have every asset at their fingertips. They can pull off things that nobody is untouchable to them, right?
Right.
So if folks could remember that, it changes the whole paradigm, because again, they don't want to kill certain people. They want to corrupt them. They want to utilize them, because anybody who influences a lot of people, they're going to get to those people.
Wow.
They're going to get to them. It doesn't matter who they are, they're going to get to them. So when you see people who are influential start to get tired, they start changing, and then they start saying weird things. Right after that, they're gone. But I'll emphasize, they will say things out of character. For example, they'll say things that nobody ever thought they would ever say. Right? It could be a weird compliment. It could be a thank you to someone or something like that. Something they would never do. Something outside of character. Then shortly after that, they're gone. They're gone. They're wiped off the face of the earth.
Wow. Well, we're dealing with spiritual wickedness in high places. We're dealing with dark demonic entities and manifestations that, when you read the Bible, you'll find that there is these manifestations. It's just people have a hard time picturing them in today's world, in today's society. But these entities have progressed like we have, I would think, over time, with technology and with darkness. Satan's plan, though, is still in play. Deception is his key tool. And he wants everyone to worship him. He'd rather not destroy you. He'd rather you worship him first before he destroys you. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but he wants worshiped. He wants admired. He wants glorified, and he wants the throne of Christ. And really, we're in a battle. And, Mike, I think you're saying we're in the stretch run of that battle. And people need one last question. Asteroids is something people have been asking me. Said, can you check with Mike? We know that this band of asteroids and meteorites, this is coming. Yes. Can you give us an update on where we're at with that?
Yeah, actually, I will. Actually, with a request, I hope that at very soon we're going beyond the point of talking about what could happen. We're going to be in the realm of what can we do about this.
Okay.
In other words, that knowledge will be everywhere. Now there will be certain let's just say darkness will be in its place by then and fully functional, but things are really their timing is impeccable, and they are timing to celestial events. These guys have all the equipment to see, Pastor Paul. We cannot dodge a big wall of rocks headed in our direction. We cannot dodge that. No. We're going to have this, and it will probably light up every single coastline. We have a strong magnetic pull right in Mexico itself, near the Gulf, right? It's a very strong magnetic pull from the Earth. So if anything is in proximity, you know how things are pulled into the sun and things are pulled into Jupiter?
Yes.
Well, many rocks, just about every other day or every day, many rocks are pulled right into this zone on the Earth in this one specific area. This is every single week this happens, right? This happens every single week.
It's out in the ocean?
That zone is no plane can fly over it. No, this is over land, no part over Mexico, part over the Gulf, part, out that way. But There's a no-fly zone over this place. They don't fly rockets. They don't fly spacecraft. They fly nothing over this area. The Van Allen belts dipped into this area not too long ago and actually touched the earth. They say it kissed the earth. So this area is widening. It's expanding, right? This is a very dangerous area. So if anything comes into our proximity, those forces are going to pull it down into this area. But here's the problem. As we have this North Pole going all over the place, the magnetic north is jumping all over the place, right? It's becoming highly erratic. We're going to have a change in our equator and the forces around the equator, right? That will begin to shift. This will also move that area, right? This area that draws in debris and everything else. So right around that time, we will enter in to the beginning portions of this storm. We're going to have a lot of dust, right? In fact, it'll look like the Middle East everywhere, like a haze is everywhere on the earth. And that will simply be some of the debris and dust and gases from out there as they build up, as they essentially move towards a core of this disturbance out there in space, this big, thing of rocks. And of course, when that hits, it's not going to be a one-day event. This will likely be months. It'll last for months. It will take a toll on the earth. No one knows what thin parts are in it, back to thick parts and so on and so forth, because it's kind of like waves in the ocean. You can't really predict what wave is next, so to speak.
Right.
But we're going through it, and we're not going to miss it. We'll entertain that, and all this is happening. In fact, this same wall of trash, right?
Yeah.
Is also changing as we enter into that. The forces of the earth will also change because something external, all this belongs to something external. And as we get closer and closer to this point of proximity, we're going to experience more and more disturbances here on the earth.
Yeah. Mike, one more last question before we let you go. Do you think, you said earlier tonight that election night, we're not going to have a winner declared. They might declare one, but we won't really know. There's still going to be a lot of debate. Do you see martial law? Do you, in between the election day and the swearing in on January 21st, do you think it's possible, or do you believe that our country may go under some kind of an emergency situation?
I think they've already begun to plan taking steps prior to the election to make sure that
so preparation is already in play right now.
Oh, it's quite serious. The word was, Pastor Paul, is these threats are serious. And again, you have folks that have essentially armed themselves, right?
Yeah.
Of civilians. They have armed, you're talking about camps of hundreds of thousands of people who have coordinated their civilians, and you don't exactly have control over them. Nobody does. So if they act, they're going to act. But here's what you're looking, here's at some of the actors. All these different groups, any group you can imagine, some of the big ones and small ones, you're looking at these people armed and ready to move against what they believe has destroyed their country. Because on both sides, unfortunately on both sides, if the Republicans win, there are many militant Democrats who will say our country is destroyed. We have to act now to take it back to whatever. And if this happens to the vice versa may happen, you have people on the Republican side that will say our country is destroyed. We must act right away. Now, these folks are all throughout America. And you know and I know that folks, operatives from the Middle East, from different countries are going to do nothing but feed the flames of these ideologies.
Because that destabilizes America.
It's such a big deal that there's been a rearrangement of armed services here in the USA. It's such a big deal.
Because of
There's been a rearrangement
because of this scenario that is setting up.
Oh yes. They have they've already come out with special maps that give zoning to every single place. I think that people are going to notice a deterrence, a big deterrence. How big that deterrence is going to be up to those who have the pulse of the people. But it's already underway. Yeah. And of course, nobody should ever forget Jade Helm, right?
Yeah, I know.
Mastering the human domain. mastering the human domain, which
Yeah.
means absolute control over every aspect of what a person can and cannot do. Right.
That's
So they
already
already
been set
have
in
that.
play.
They already have the contingencies up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because during Jade Helm, they set up these boxes on every single highway. They're about a mile apart. So instead of where the mile markers are, you also have fortified areas. Those are set up too.
Underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They built them right there.
Yeah.
And
They can take
yeah,
control
so
of a
they're
city.
getting everything ready.
They can lock down. They can build blockades. They can quickly
Lock down everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. They're like pillboxes right there beside the highways,
Yeah.
and they can shut down the highways at any given moment. And yeah. So
it's
anyway,
gonna
all
be-
that set up.
It's going to be a
all set up.
very, very, very potentially dangerous time coming this fall. Very.
There's one last thing to this too. If I were in leadership and I anticipated an uproar from the people because of some action that was about to happen, you better believe that before anything ever happened, I would begin to find who are these people that would cause such a disturbance. I would find them before anything ever happened. See, if you take those players out, if you can somehow contain them, you may not have to deal with the whole.
Right. Take out the leadership of these.
So keep that in mind. So that means anybody who promotes, amplifies, continues to talk about her, does whatever. So forget about censorship. We're talking about something on a brand new level that will be employed in this country. And they're not going to care about anybody's freedom of speech or anything else. They won't care about that. So these guys are serious. AI has come out at the right time, at the exact same time, which can cover everything they cannot.
All right. Well, we've been given a full explanation. Well, we've been given a lot to think about. What Mike has helped us with here tonight. The entire broadcast has been gearing us to realizing that we're at a critical moment in not only our nation's history, but the world. Because believe me, as America goes, so does the world. So, Mike, we want to thank you tonight. We look forward to whatever. I want you to be ready and prepared when I get ready to film you on what could be the October surprise. And with all the different speakers, it's going to be very interesting based on your intelligence that you can share, or your gut feel, or your information, or your prophetic insight, or whatever, or your experience, whatever it may be, to prepare people for whatever is coming and the possibilities. So thank you for coming and being with us tonight.
Pascal, is always an honor.
The honor is mine. Thank you, Mike. Great job. Thank you. God bless.
All right. God bless.